Hello and welcome back to the channel, where we don't just remember history, we dig beneath it. Because sometimes, the most important events aren't the ones we were taught to memorize. They're the ones that almost went the other way. Today, we go back to July 1st, 1863. The day that marked the beginning of what could have been the end not just of a war, but of the United States itself. This is the story of Gettysburg, but not the version in your school books. Because buried inside those 3 bloody days are questions no one ever really answered. Let's begin. It was the height of the American Civil War. The Confederate Army, led by General Robert E. Lee, was bold. He was marching north, confident and, by many accounts, he had already defeated Union forces multiple times, and now into Union territory, into Pennsylvania. But why? Some say Lee was tired of fighting on Southern soil, that he wanted to bring the war to the North to shake the Union's confidence. Others believe there was more at play, that Lee had reason to believe the North was on the verge of collapse, that the Northern public was growing weary of the war, and that, just maybe, a decisive Confederate victory could force peace, or split the nation in two permanently. July 1st, 1863. Gettysburg, a quiet farm town, until it wasn't. Confederate troops collided with Union forces almost by accident. A chance meeting turned into a brutal skirmish. By the end of the day, the Union was pushed back. High ground was lost. Things looked grim. Now here's where the questions begin. Historians agree if Lee had pushed harder that night, if he had seized Cemetery Hill, the Union might not have recovered. But he didn't. Why? Some say his second-in-command, General Ewell, hesitated. Others whisper of conflicting orders, confusion, exhaustion. But there's a theory most won't say out loud, that there were spies. That information about Union reinforcements was being fed in tension lied to delay Confederate aggression, because by the next morning, the Union Army they held the high ground, and suddenly, the advantage began to shift. Day 2, July 2nd, Lee launched multiple assaults on the flanks against rocks, trees, blood, and willpower. At Little Round Top, a group of Union soldiers held their position to the very last bullet, and then charged with bayonet. It sounds heroic, but what's often left out of the official narrative is this. The Union line almost broke. Had Confederate forces broken through on that day, they would have flanked the entire Northern Army. The road to Washington would have been wide open. Now pause for a second. The Union Army collapses. Lee marches into Washington, D.C. Lincoln is forced to surrender. How different would the map look today? How different would the world look? Because America, as one united nation, would not have existed. There would be no United States to enter World War I or II, no superpower to lead the Cold War, no Pax Americana. All of that hinged on what happened next. July 3rd, Day 3. Lee made a fateful decision. He launched a direct assault on the center of the Union line, a frontal attack across open fields, in daylight, against fortified troops on high ground. They called it Pickett's Charge. It was, by all accounts, a disaster. Thousands of Confederate soldiers were cut down in minutes. The center held. The South never truly recovered. But again, the mystery lingers. Why did Lee do it? He was a brilliant strategist. Why such a reckless move? Was it arrogance, desperation, or was there something more? Some believe Lee had been misled, that scouts had given him false reports of weakness at the Union center. Could it have been misinformation? Could the Union have fed false intelligence to Lee's lines? After all, this was not just a battlefield, it was a mind game. And both sides had eyes and ears in unexpected places. Here's another detail most people miss. During these 3 days, there were whispers of Confederate messengers being intercepted, memos gone missing. Even a courier who was reportedly found dead under suspicious circumstances without his orders. What was in those documents? No one knows. They vanished, just like the Confederacy's hopes after Gettysburg. By July 4th, Lee was retreating. The rain poured down as if nature itself mourned what could have been. He would never lead an invasion into the North again. And though the war dragged on for nearly 2 more years, Gettysburg marked the turning point. But it could have gone another way. A single hill, a delayed charge, a false report, a dead courier. History isn't always shaped by grand speeches or massive armies. Sometimes, it turns on moments no one noticed. And that's what makes July 1st, 1863, so haunting. Because it was the day the Union nearly lost. The day the United States nearly ceased to be. And we'll never know just how close we came to living in a different world entirely. Thanks for watching. If this episode sparked something in you, hit the like button. Subscribe for more stories that unravel the edges of what we think we know. And drop a comment. Do you believe Gettysburg was just a battle, or was it something more? See you in the next one, where history doesn't just repeat. Sometimes, it whispers.